then there's a wall where it lasts for 1 minute. That wall that she places, it will last for 1 minute. It's destructible, but it takes around 4 to 6 shotgun shots to break. So Stylesy, he translated all this stuff for me from the Alpha Cast, and they had a lot of interesting information. They speak in French, so I think that a lot of English players have not heard these things. I hadn't heard these things until beforehand, or until he told me. So I'm gonna go through some of the lesser known things about Valorant right now, based off of the gameplay and the playtesters of what they said. So we're gonna start out with armor and guns right here. The first thing. For armor, there is purchasable armor. There's 2 different types of it apparently, and basically it functions as like a sponge is the way that he defined it. So like when you shoot somebody, if you shoot them for 10 damage, it's basically going to do, just in purpose of rounding, if you shoot them for 10 damage, it's going to do 7 damage to the person and 3 damage to the armor if they have the armor. So this will save you from some specific shots. There's things like the scout sniper rifle in this game. There is a scout. It's not called the scout. I forget what it's called. It's like Marshall, I think. If you shoot somebody with a Marshall, it'll do 101 damage to a body shot. If you hit them and they have armor, they'll survive with around like 70 health. They'll survive with around like 30 health. So that's something to keep in mind. Armor is going to be very important, just the same way that it is in CSGO. If you get scouted with, I think, if you don't have any armor, then you generally die in CSGO. I think so, right? I don't know exactly, but guns like the Vandal. So the Vandal is going to be the AK-47 weapon that people have talked about. It actually functions almost exactly like the AK people have said. They've even compared like the spray pattern before. So I think that's really interesting. Something that's like really cool about Valorant is it seems like it's taking a lot of pages from different FPS games books. Me and Titan were talking about how it's very similar to Quake in some regards, similar to CS and Rainbow Six Siege, obviously. Siege being like characters like Cypher and Sova being in the game is similar to games like Overwatch with all the abilities and kind of like the graphics a little bit. There's a lot of different things like that. If you get things like the LMGs, so that's going to be the light machine guns and the heavy machine guns, apparently they're supposed to be a viable alternative to the rifles in the game, which is interesting because in Counter-Strike, it feels like you would never buy like a Negev over an AK. You just wouldn't. That's why they even reduced the Negev price, is because there's just no point to purchase like a $5,400 Negev unless you were trolling. There's also the LMG in the game. It's called the Odin. When you ADS with it, you can't move, but it is an incredibly accurate gun. So that might be strong on that regard. You need to stop moving anyway to shoot in a game like this. So it kind of makes sense that you can't move while you shoot it. I think this could actually be pretty strong. So we'll have to see. You're not going to be doing like crazy trick shots with it probably, but just the ADS and everything, you can definitely use that to hold down a position. There's 2 shotguns in the game. There's the Bucky. It functions kind of like Roadhog's gun in Overwatch, apparently. It has 2 modes of fire. I can't tell you exactly what the 2 modes of fire are because I don't know. This is just translated for me. But it said it functions like Overwatch or like Roadhog's gun, so I don't know. Look for that. And then there's also the Judge, which is like the EVA 8 from Apex. So that's the fully auto shotgun, or not fully auto. Oh, it's automatic. It's semi-auto, I guess. Shotgun from Apex. I'm assuming it'll be a little bit stronger than Apex. This is your auto shotty. You know, pretty much every game has one of these. This is, again, I'm just talking, or this is translation, so a lot of this stuff might not be 100% accurate. So that's gonna do it for weapons. So there wasn't a lot that really stood out to me. Like there was some stuff about like the SMGs. SMGs are pretty much just SMGs. There's something that's very similar to the MP5 in the game, so that's exciting. But basically, the Vandal's like an AK. That's how Kevlar works. It works like a sponge. You have the 2 shotguns, and then the Marshall, which is the scout, does 1 hit to the chest if they are not wearing armor. Beyond that, we have some character things that you might not have known. I thought that the descriptions for the character abilities within the game were kind of weird. They didn't always sound very clear, so I'm really glad that we got this translation where it kind of clears some things up. So we're going to start out with Brimstone. His first ability, his signature ability, is those smokes. They're like an orbital smoke he can drop down from the sky. It made it sound like it was global when they talked about it, but apparently, according to the Alpha Cast, it's not global. It has a maximum radius. So that's actually interesting. I think that the radius is probably going to be pretty large. You do see in the round he uses it at like a fair distance. He's sitting outside of one site and he uses it on the opposite side of that site. So I think that Brimstone's still going to be able to work as kind of like a solo player or like in his own area, but it's not global, so keep that in mind. And then you have things like the stim beacon. So he throws down a stim beacon. The effect actually persists 4 to 5 seconds after they leave the zone. So that's actually pretty cool. You don't need to be standing in the stim beacon all the time. Maybe he can throw it down before you engage, and it'll still persist, maybe for like the entry frags. So that's actually interesting. And then lastly, his ultimate can actually kill himself too. Very similar to Gibraltar's ultimate in Apex. If he uses it on himself, it's like a pulsating thing. It looks like it will kill him. So don't stand in it if you're playing Gibby. Or whatever this guy's name is. What's his name? Brimstone? Yeah. Which one goes into burst mode when you're ADSing? It's not the Vandal. I'd have to look at the menu. It's called the Bulldog, I think. I think that's the one that's burst mode. There's apparently no ceiling to the game, or like skywall. I think that they refer to that. I don't know if that just refers to nades or if that refers to characters as well, though, and stuff like that. That's actually interesting to say. So that was Brimstone. Our second character here that we're going to talk about is Phoenix. He doesn't have anything crazy. He was pretty, actually, I wrote down Phoenix, pretty straightforward. So we're not going to talk about Phoenix. All of his abilities work the way that you expect them to work. His flashbang, he can curve it, which is, I think it says that within the thing. He can move his wall, which is kind of interesting. If he launches his wall out, he can like turn it to between left and right. I don't know how far the wall goes, if it just goes until it runs into something, or like exactly how it works, but he has a Molotov that heals him. His wall heals him as well. And then his ultimate works like the Revenant thing, where he will place it at one location, run in, and then it'll like blink it back. You've all read the character stuff, so I don't want to like beat you to death with that. Our next character is Sova. Sova is the guy, like the tech guy with the arrow. The guy kind of looks like the Witcher, according to BitX. He has wall hacks with his signature ability, and they work in a pulse fashion. So when he shoots this arrow, it'll fire a recon arrow, kind of like Hanzo's ability, and it works in a pulse, kind of like a UAV. You know, it'll scan once, and then a couple seconds later, it'll scan again. It can actually only detect people who it is in vision of. So if they're just in the area, you can LOS it, actually, so line of sight it. So that's going to be a good way to deal with it. You can also shoot it to destroy it. So an interesting thing with this is you actually see this in the trailer too, but it's kind of hard to see if you don't look for it. It can actually bounce, and apparently it can bounce up to 3 times, and people have said that you could bounce it a pretty ridiculous distance from the spawn. So say you spawn in at an area, you're in the prep phase, you can bounce it off the wall, and it sounds like you can get it pretty much to their spawn if you shoot like these correct shots. You're gonna see a lot of people in like test lobbies being able to just like practice with this and like bouncing it off at like whatever walls. You know, like people prep their smokes in CS where they know exactly where to aim it, where it'll land at like a perfect spot. I would definitely see that with this arrow. Soba players are gonna be like really experienced with this. You're gonna find some really cool stuff with that. And then his drone ability is actually very loud when he uses it. I'm assuming you can hear it flying. It's very easy to shoot as well, so you can keep that in mind. It'll give you intel still, though. If somebody shoots it, that still gives you information, right? And then lastly, his ultimate ability, it sounded kind of nuts. It is a global spear, like charge rifle thing. It does 60 damage and bursts. It does heavy damage, which is kind of nuts. It has 100% wall penetration, and it marks people on the map. And you can see the beam on the map. So that sounds kind of nuts. I'm kind of worried about that one, but I'm praying that Riot like knows what they're doing. I'm like, okay, it's probably not that bad, but that one sounds kind of nuts. 60 damage is a lot. If you get somebody marked on the map from the other side of the map, you can just launch it at them and just kill them. It's nuts. Our next character is Cypher, actually, my boy. Cypher, his camera is invisible when he's not looking through it, which is interesting. And then he can also shoot darts through it that give wall hacks. So that's kind of cool. And then his tripwire is not easily visible, and it can break tripwire during the stun. So if somebody gets stunned by his tripwire, they can shoot it, and it'll break it. I think if they don't shoot it, then I think he can pick it up again. I think it said that he can pick up the tripwire. I'm not sure if that just means if it wasn't detonated or something, but it doesn't explode. It just roots, right? So maybe somebody pushes a site, and they get stuck by it, and then you kill them before they kill the tripwire. Maybe you can move that tripwire, and they can't kill it. Or like somebody, maybe it'll get somebody else, you know? And then his trap ability that he places is like a big cage. It can only be manually activated. So it's actually like he will place it, and then he'll be kind of like waiting on his camera probably for somebody to walk over it, and then he can activate it. So that's going to be difficult to use. I don't really know exactly how that would work. I guess if somebody like pushes a smoke, so maybe you have like a Viper smoke down and somebody pushes that and he can activate it while they're in the smoke, maybe that would be really strong. Or if it's like on a Phoenix, like a Molotov or something, that would be interesting. The next character we got is Sage. Sage looked very strong in the reveal, and we've heard very strong things about her. She's probably going to be one of the most busted characters is what people are saying. Her healing orb apparently was too strong. It had 2 charges right now. Apparently they're going to nerf it down to 1 according to the alpha cast. And the devs have like openly stated that they think it's too strong. And then there's a wall where it lasts for 1 minute. That wall that she places, it will last for 1 minute. It's destructible, but it takes around 4 to 6 shotgun shots to break. I'm not sure if that is really an accurate statement, because you watch it in the trailer when she resurrects the guy in the first teaser. It gets shot with an LMG like maybe 7-8 times. So I'm not sure if it's just like the Rainbow Six like doors. So if you shoot a door, you can put like 20 bullets into it and it won't break. But if you shoot it with a shotgun like twice, it'll blow up. I think it's just like the amount of shells that you put into it, or like depending on the gun. I don't really know yet. Apparently, it's really strong on pistol rounds, too. So the fact that this is so difficult to break and it lasts for a whole minute, if she places that wall on a site, it sounds like basically just don't go to that site. Just go to a different one. Like, don't bother. She can only use it once per round. You can boost people on it, too. So if somebody stands on this wall, it'll lift them into the air. You can use that to get people to specific situations. You see a screenshot of Cypher being boosted in one of the videos. 1 minute. Yep, that's what my information says. I don't know if it's 100% accurate, but that's what my information says. No, it sounds kind of nuts. Well, if it's breakable, so it might be fair. Yeah, well, we're hoping. Then you have, okay, now we're on Omen. So Omen, a lot of people, we didn't get any footage of him in the gameplay. All we saw was him die, I think, once, which is kind of a bummer. He sounds really interesting, and a lot of people are intrigued by this guy. Basically, he has a couple of abilities. If you go and look him up, I could talk about him right here since somebody said that they didn't know him. Omen, his first ability is going to be called Paranoia. He sends out an ethereal shadow in a straight line, near-sighting anybody that it touches. This thing can go through walls, and it'll mark them on the map as well. So when it hits them, it'll like blind them a little bit. They'll only be able to see like right in front of them. It'll go through walls. You can't see it coming at you, and it'll mark them on the map. That's a strong ability. The fact that it can go through walls especially. At first, I was thinking, dude, like, he fires it in a straight line. If he has to reveal himself to fire it, it's not going to be very good. But if he knows where somebody's hiding, or he knows where to pre-fire somebody, he can just fire it through a wall. And if it hits them, then it's like, okay, well, they might have been holding that position, but now they can't see anything. Like, that's really interesting. That's going to be very strong. His next ability, it's called Dark Cover. He casts out an ethereal orb that bursts into an obscuring sphere of shadow at its final location. It can be charged to increase distance. So I think that he casts this, what does it say? You can place it wherever you want on the map, is what it says. And it can adjust, you can adjust the falling speed. So I think that when you charge it up, it'll adjust the rate that it falls. I think that we do see this in one of the leaked photos that we got. But the idea that you could just cast this anywhere, I think that'll be very strong as like a lurk character, doing his own thing, because he can still assist his teams from afar, which is interesting. Once again, this is just information that I got from another source. I don't know if this is 100% true. And then his TP ability is just going to be like a Reaper teleport. So it'll work pretty much the exact same way. But his ultimate, though, it lets him teleport anywhere on the map, which sounds kind of nuts. But it has a really long cast time, and if killed during the cast, you will reappear at the original spot. I don't like this. I think if you're killed during the cast, you should probably just die. I think it should have like some sort of punishing mechanic. But it makes a lot of noise when you do this, so I think it'll be all right. The fact that it like kind of announces himself, a lot of people have said that if Omen is going to be a character that's going to be really strong at lower ranks, but at higher ranks, they don't think that he's going to be that great. But will there be agent skins or just weapon skins? So far, I don't think that we have agent skins confirmed. I think that they just have weapon skins right now, but I'm not 100% sure. The last character I wanted to talk about, too, was Viper. Her ultimate brings people down to 1 HP, and then enemies heal back to their previous HP when leaving. That's about the only thing. Her abilities are recastable, so if she uses her wall, it actually persists the entire round. She can't move it, but she can reactivate it. And then I think that her grenade she can actually pick up. So the smoke grenade, she can pick that up, and she can relocate that as well. It does take fuel to leave these things up, so she can't leave them up forever, but that's something to keep in mind. Lastly, the things that I have that you might not know is that there are finishers in the game, kind of like Apex apparently, and then there's also unique weapon skins per character. So apparently, I think, but what they mean by unique weapon skins is that like if you're playing Viper, you can get like a specific Viper AK skin or something, as opposed to like if you're playing Jet, then you won't be able to get that Viper skin. I think so. I'm not positive on that though. Do you have to buy the 8 agents, or when we play the game are all first agents all locked? It looked like from one of the leaks that 3 of them were locked on release. Hello friends, how's the finishers work? I'm assuming that's interesting. How do the finishers work? Maybe it's like the last person in a round when you shoot them. Maybe it does like that whole thing where it like zooms in on the bullet. That would be like really weird. I don't know if that would be appropriate in a game like this, but that's just what it says. There are finishers in the game. Maybe they mean kill cams. They might have meant kill cams. So the information that I got was translated from a French podcast. It was called the Alpha Cast or something, right? I can look them up. I didn't even look up the video. I should have done that. It was translated by Stylesy, and he just kind of sent me the information. So some of the stuff might have gotten lost in translation. Backstab's probably like assassinations in Halo Reach. That's possible. I wouldn't want to backstab somebody in like the middle of the round though and have a finisher activate. That'd be really annoying. It might be he might have meant kill cams. I think that he probably meant kill cams.